We're going to be talking about writing good requirements. Good requirements are very critical to the success of a project. The success of all aspects of a project are dependent on requirements. Improving requirements will result in more accurately estimating size, effort, schedule, cost. It will also help deliver a high-quality product on time, within budget, and one that meets the customer needs. So, without further ado, let's go into the various topics of today's presentation. First, we're going to talk about project lifecycle stages and the application lifecycle model requirements phases. So before we can actually start talking about quality or creating quality requirements, we need to look at and understand the roles that requirements play in the various project lifecycle stages, as well as the various phases of requirements writing. When we go into the slides looking at the project lifecycle stages, we're going to look at the stages of requirements, detailed design, and construction, and development and testing. And in the application lifecycle model slides, we're going to look at initial user requirements, the initial technical requirements, and the final functional user requirements. So we'll get into detail on those on future slides. We're also going to look at the topic of the factors involved in creating quality requirements, the fundamentals of writing detailed requirements, and give examples of poor requirements writing, some better requirements writing, and some actually good requirements writing. So you can see what I'll be trying to explain throughout on how we want to transition from poor requirements writing, where you really cannot create a quality product, on to how to do really good requirements so you can produce a quality product on time, within budget, etc. And the last bullet under topics, management change in requirements. This is very critical. We'll talk about it more later, but basically, if you're not managing your change in requirements, you get a tremendous amount of scope creep, which is probably the #1 reasons projects fail or come in way over budget or way behind schedule, very poor quality, etc. So we'll get into that in detail when we get to that section. So the first topic, project lifecycle stages. Okay, as I said, the first stage we're going to talk about is the requirement stage. This stage is broken down into initial use requirements, and we defined that as representing a formal description of the user business needs in the user's language. After that, they hand them off to the technical people who develop the initial technical requirements. And in that phase, the developers translate the user requirements and information into information technology language in order to provide a solution for the user. Once those two things are done, they come together and create requirements that, in the world of software measurement and function point analysis, we call user identifiable requirements. And this refers to defined requirements for processes and or groups of data that are agreed upon and understood by both the user or users and the software development people. You'll notice that I have something called functional user requirements for as a sub-bullet under users and developers confirm requirements. FUR is actually an ISO-compliant term that we now use in the latest version of the ITMPI Accounting Practices Manual for function points. That's the Accounting Practices Manual 4.3, which is now totally ISO compliant. FUR represents the user practices and procedures that the software must perform to fulfill the user's needs, and it excludes quality requirements and any technical requirements. So today we're looking at the functional user requirements, what the user basically is asking for and expects to receive, not at how it's going to be accomplished via the technical and quality requirements. So just to clarify that. Okay, and then we will take those functional user requirements and we will size them using whatever methodology you use. In my world, we use function point analysis, which is the predominant size and methodology in use today. And then from that, we develop our initial project estimate. Okay, the next stage is the detailed design stage. So after the initial requirements are agreed upon by both the user and the developer, the project then moves into the design stage. During the design stage, it will become evident that some requirements need to be changed, maybe others added, and even others potentially deleted. Haven't been an actual developer for about 20 years before moving in the software measurement field. I can probably truly say that was true of every single project I worked on. So that means that we need to have a firm grasp on controlling these revised requirements, which means we need to, whenever requirements are revised, we need to revise the project estimate. And to revise the project estimate, we have to take those added, changed, or deleted requirements, review them, and again, functionally size them so we can produce the revised estimate and assess the impact on these revised requirements to the project. So again, we'll have to assess the impact on things like the schedule, the budget, etc. And as I mentioned earlier, the scope creep, the big boogeyman that will just wreak havoc on a project if it's not controlled. So we can control scope creep by making sure every time requirements are changed or some way that we go through this process every single time, looking at the requirements, sizing, and adjusting our estimate and going back to our customer or user with the revisements and discuss them with the user. Okay, moving on then to the construction phase, which is your basic development and testing. Once again, in this phase, just like in the prior phase, there could be requirement changes, and they can surface due to various reasons, things like